What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s
Think about
here.
the 20s.
The 20s, baby. Plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am here
on?
for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zama Mkize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through it, baby. On this episode, we're going to be speaking about how you need to stop being so reactive. And this is something that I get. I get very, very well, and we're going to get into all of that. So let's first discuss like all the ways that we can be so reactive, right? To people, to conversations, to things that they may say and all of that kind of stuff. I think that anger, is one of the most obvious ways that we may respond to things. When you just kind of blow up, you're ready to fight at any moment, and whatever it is, you're ready to just take like charge. And what of that, I think that we can feel so defensive. I know that I'm someone who can feel very defensive when certain things happen or are said and stuff, and I can feel so like, I'm sorry, what was that? Like, I'm sorry, hold on. I'm not big on anger. Like, I'm not a very angry person, but I know that there are people who feel like that. Like, immediately, if something feels like it's threatening them and all of that kind of stuff, they're just so ready to be angry. They're so ready to just show their anger and be visibly angry and all of that kind of stuff. I just know that I can be quite defensive in that sense, because it's like my guard is feeling challenged right now. My guard is up, my walls are up, like all of that. And I just kind of feel like, whoa. I think that some people are very reactive when it comes to, emotionally reactive when it comes to crying. You can feel like attacked, or you feel something so so sensitive and stuff, that your immediate response is to just cry, without even really listening, without even really understanding what's going on, without even really taking in the full story and stuff. Your first immediate thing is to just start crying. And I think in certain ways that can be really manipulative, because you change the energy, you change the atmosphere in the room to kind of now be centered on the fact that you're crying, rather than the problem that's taking place, rather than the issue that needs to be addressed and stuff. Like, all the attention is just focused on the fact that, there's tears coming out of your eyes, and you become so used to doing that, right? You become so good at it even. I only cry when I really feel like when I feel unheard. I think those are moments where I feel so emotional, when I feel like I'm not being seen, when I'm not being, those like that will elicit tears out of me. But I try really hard to not cry the moment I start to feel emotional or whatever, because I need to make sure I'm hearing someone out. I need to make sure I am listening, instead of now kind of reverting or diverting all the efforts and attention into making the person feel bad about the fact that I'm crying, which is really, it's hard to do when you're an emotional person. I'm a very sensitive and emotional person, but I just realized sometimes it's not fair. It's not fair if somebody's trying to communicate something to you and immediately you just react with tears. Like, take a moment, allow them to share their piece. Like, I think it's very unfair. It's very unfair when someone is trying to communicate to you, and you're not even giving them their moment. I think healthy communication is recognizing when it's your moment, even though you might feel like this wasn't what you meant, this wasn't your intention, what they're communicating, all that kind of stuff. You need to be able to give someone their moment to express how what you did, who you are, all of that kind of stuff is making them feel, rather than immediately feeling like you need to be defensive about it and all the rest. I think that ways that we may be reactive is responding to someone's behavior and stuff with punishment, right? So that could be with the silent treatment. I know I used to, not anymore, but I used to feel the need to just not talk because I am offended or I'm hurt or whatever it is. I just kind of felt like, okay, you know what? You're not going to get my time. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm on the mood to talk to you. Whatever it is, you're not going to hear from me. And I think that it's really selfish. It's really frustrating, because the other person is now spiraling, trying to figure out how to reach you, how to connect with you and all of that kind of stuff. But you're feeling quite volatile in the state, I picked that up. We pick these habits out from adults. We've seen how certain adults move, and now we start doing that and all of that kind of stuff. I think that when we can be passive aggressive we're just reactive, because now we're just giving an attitude, right? We have a bit of a stank to it or whatever. Because you're just reacting to someone's thing rather than communicating your hurt, your pain and stuff. You'd rather just like be nasty and be rude, be mean and all of that kind of stuff. I think those are different and various ways that our reactiveness can manifest, right? We just hear something and all of a sudden we just have the craziest attitude. We may roll our eyes, we may this and that, just do things that, really is unkind and can make someone feel really hurt, but because we're just being so reactive, it's almost like we don't care. We don't care that this person is feeling a type of way based off of how we're reacting because we feel like they deserve it. We feel like it's warranted. We feel like these are the consequences of their actions. But I don't know, I think there must be healthier ways that we're able to respond, to certain things rather than just emotionally react to everything. Because I think that, number one, if you're so emotionally reactive, you are very easy to control and manipulate, right? Because of like the whole predictableness of it all. Like people know, I remember my friends used to say, because I was, it's very easy to make me frustrated. It's very it's very easy for me to be like, what? And they used to say to me, like, Summer, you're so easy to like irritate. And they would, I don't know, some people would literally get like, make it a joke and be like, find it funny and all of that kind of stuff. That like, yeah, I can roll my eyes very quickly if I feel like you're acting strange. Like, what are you doing, And I'm trying to learn to stop doing that because clearly people are getting a rise out of that. They're having fun out of that or whatever. They find it hilarious that I'm so predictable. They find it hilarious that they know that if they do this certain thing, I'm going to, respond like this or whatever it is. And I started like realizing like, actually, I need to stop reacting to this stuff. I need to stop entertaining them with my, reactiveness. I need to stop, getting so touched and affected and whatever. And just like, the best reaction is no reaction. Honestly, the best reaction is just kind of like saying, I'm not going to entertain this or whatever it is, because you can see when people are intentionally just trying to get a reaction out of you, just trying to get a rise out of you and all of that. And I think that was something I had to learn because I became very easy to you could push my buttons very easy and all of that. And I just was like, I need to become a lot more slow to these to these emotions. I need to become slow to being frustrated and stuff like that. I think that we feel like there's a need for us to prove, right? We feel like the reason we are so reactive, we feel like we need to prove ourselves. We feel like we need to prove our point. We feel like we need to prove our innocence. We feel like we need to prove our this and that, And so that's why we're so ready to start being angry or crying or being frustrated and all of that kind of stuff. We're trying to prove to everybody that like I'm the innocent one, I'm the victim, I'm the this and that, and I think it'll make us over explain sometimes. You want to prove that you're worthy of being in certain spaces, so now you're over explaining your idea, you're over explaining your plans, you're over explaining this and that or whatever it is. You feel like, I felt like I needed to over explain to prove my worth to people, to prove my value in certain spaces and that I deserved to be around, certain groups or whatever. I'd over explain something and this and that. And it's just kind of like, whoa, you can't react so much. I felt like if I didn't feel like I was being heard or received well or whatever, I'd just start over explaining and rambling and all of that. And it's just like, girl, you don't need to do any of that. You feel like you need to overcompensate. So again, back to the point of feeling like you need to prove your worthiness in someone's life or in all of that, you'll overcompensate by doing. So say, for example, you react to them pulling away by doing more. You react to them pulling away by buying everything under the sun, all these gifts and everything like that, to try and get their attention, to try and get them to stay in your life, whatever. You're just reacting to their lack of, attention, for you and all of that kind of stuff in this way that just makes you do too much. You've seen people who just, they're doing too much in spaces or whatever it is, and it's because they're just trying to gain something, and it's a really painful, overcompensating is really painful because you're trying to make up for what you feel like isn't there. You're trying to make up for what you feel like is a gap, is a lack, and all of that kind of stuff. I think that the reasons why we do this is because we feel like we are being triggered right now. Like the reason why we are so reactive is because we feel like our insecurities have come to the surface and all of that kind of stuff. And it feels like you are now you're touching sensitive soil, and that's why we just start crying. That's why we just start yelling. That's why we, all of that kind of stuff. It feels like, they're triggering a soft spot. They're triggering something that you really just didn't want to have to think about or talk about or whatever it is. And so we just start blowing up and all of that kind of stuff. I think the reason why we are reactive is because we are protective of ourselves, right? We feel like we need, and that's it goes back to the whole defensiveness and stuff like that. We are trying to protect maybe our younger selves that felt like they weren't protected in that moment, in that time where this happened to them and all of that. We are protective of the people we love and care about. So we feel like we have to defend them and go to the ends of the earth to prove and vindicate them and all of that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like because we're so protective of so much and the things we care about and stuff like that, I think it can lead us into really dangerous territory where we are just so easy to kind of, as I said, like push those buttons and stuff like that. And we need to be careful. I think that some of us feel like everything is an attack on us. We feel like everybody's out to get us or something. And so that's why we feel this need to build this defensive layer around us and whatever, because it feels like whatever somebody says, oh, they're attacking you, or it also feels like it's a reflection of you, right? Like, what does it say about myself if I don't respond to this, if I don't react to this and stuff? I've heard people use as an excuse, like, oh, the reason I said that was because, what is it going to look like if I don't say anything and all of that? And I'm just like, wait, what? What is it going to look like if this? And I'm just like, we're so concerned because we feel like what this other person is saying or doing, whatever, is a reflection of you. And your response to it, if you don't kind of stoop to their level or whatever, or meet them with the same energy, is that it'll make you look weaker or make you look inferior, and etc., etc., etc. And so we feel like we have to outdo them. We feel like we have to be the bigger bully. We feel like we have to be the bigger monster, in a way of like defending our honor, or the honor of the people that you care about and stuff. There's all these excuses that we will have and that we will build as to why we have to get in the ring with somebody, as to why we need to pick up our boxing gloves and all of that. And I've just been thinking about it a lot, like in a sense of like, why are we doing this? Because I think if anything, it's doing the inverse. I think you being able to just kind of learn how to not entertain that energy, learn how to not give it the attention that it is trying to solicit out of you and all of that kind of stuff. I think it just shows a maturity in you. I think it shows that you are able to just, not be consumed by things that are perhaps maybe in the circumstance could be beneath you and all the rest. Like, I think like our ability to know when to walk away, our ability to know when to be quiet, when to just not engage and stuff like that. Like, I think those are qualities that people would respect way more than someone who is so, I think what it can do is make you look unstable, emotionally unstable, someone who's just so reactive and responsive and all of that kind of stuff. I think it makes you, I think you're trying to rule by fear. You're trying to, and all of that kind of stuff. You want people to fear you. You want people to fear saying things to you and whatever it is. And I think more than fear, we shouldn't be looking for people to fear you, but to respect you, if that makes sense. And I think there's a thin line between the two. And again, like as I'm saying, like the problem with moving like this is like the fact that we are easy to control in this way, because now people know what it is that just makes you get so frustrated that they know at any point, anytime, if they wanted to evoke that out of you, they just could, And I think we just have to be more responsible with ourselves in terms of like, giving people that kind of access to those vulnerabilities within us. I think that also all healthy communication gets lost the moment we start being reactive, right? Because now people are not focused on what it is you're saying. People are focused on how it is you're making them feel. If that, and because of that, now they're responding back with the same energy, and everything just gets so blown out of proportion, right? Because it's just, no one's hearing what you're saying now. All of that gets thrown out the window because everything now that is being responded to is your tone, is your body language. It's literally the subtext. It's everything surrounding, what you're saying, but not what you're saying at all. And that's why like things can be taken so out of context. Things can be blown so far. Like that's such a problem because there's things that you can say that you can't take back when you're in a reactive state. And sometimes there really is no justifying that. And when people, when you can't take that back, you end up hurting the people we love. You know what I'm saying? We end up really doing some damage. And it's not fair. It's not nice. It's not, guys, it's not right. Even if you can say that you were saying things you didn't mean and all of that kind of stuff, we end up hurting people who are close to us and stuff because we were in such a reactive state or whatever. And we don't know how far that damage could go. Like, even if you guys may squash things and like say, yeah, let's, move past this, you don't know how far they're going to take with them, the words that you said to them. You don't know the impact that it has left on their self-esteem, on how they see themselves, how they do things and all of that kind of stuff. Like, I think that when we're so reactive, we miss out on all these cues because it's more important that you're heard. You feel like it's more important that your views are heard and, that you're right. It's more important to be right than it is to make peace, than it is to communicate, than it is to kind of have everyone be seen in the space. I think when we're so reactive, we expose the fact that we lack a sense of emotional regulation, like we're just unable to bring ourselves to calm and stuff. And that's what it just exposes in us. And it makes us look immature. It makes us look just, all the things I was saying earlier. People find it too risky to engage with you, too risky to bet on you, too risky to back you and stuff because they feel like you don't know how to get a handle on your emotions. You don't know how to regulate yourself and come back to a state of calm and peace and neutral because you're so busy operating on this like high all the time, always ready to go, always ready to punch and swing and all of that. And yeah, I think that could be quite problematic for you. And I think that the consequences of everything, I don't think we're always prepared and ready to deal with the consequences of who we were when we were busy being reactive. And I think that it's sometimes you really do have to learn how to pause. These are solutions that I think can help us when we feel triggered, when we feel attacked, when we feel exposed and whatever it is learning how to take a pause, take a break, take a moment, sometimes it's okay to ask, can we resume this conversation later? Because right now it's too hot. Like the energy and all of that, it's too much right now, that it's probably best if we take a minute. I would recommend doing something different in your in the moment. Like you could be so consumed with all the rage and all of that you're feeling right now. I would recommend going, say, I don't know, take a walk or something, go paint something, I don't know, do something so unrelated and so different or whatever it is that it allows you to de-escalate the situation, deflate what's going on in your head, in your mind and all of that, so that you can just come back to a state of calm and like able to communicate more effectively. I think you need to keep trying to think about ways to disengage. When you feel like someone is charging at you and stuff, what are the best ways for you to remove yourself from the situation right now? Especially if it doesn't deserve your time and attention. Don't feel like you need to match. Don't feel like you need to show and prove or whatever it is, but learn how to walk away, learn how to say nothing, learn how to say enough, learn how to say no, you know what I'm saying? Like disengage from this thing entirely. It doesn't deserve to consume so much of you. It doesn't deserve to take so much from you, because that's the thing. It takes to be reactive. It takes your energy. It costs you the relationships you have with people and stuff like that. It costs you reputation. It costs so much that I think if it is a better skill for you to learn how to disengage from certain things, without it having to be the thing of you having an attitude or rude or whatever, but just learning to be like, I don't need to do this, and moving forward and letting it go. I think learning how to listen more is so important. Listen to what somebody's trying to communicate with you. Listen to, what is actually being said and stuff, instead of always feeling the need to be responsive and always feeling the need to be defensive and all of that kind of stuff. Like listen listen, take it in, understand it, grasp it. Understanding is important. Understanding where somebody's coming from, understanding, why they had reached this place where they feel this way and all of that. I think that shows a lot more emotional maturity, to be able to just put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And so even though that this was not how I intended to make you feel, I can understand why you feel this way. And I apologize for that. I apologize for hurting your feelings and all of that. I think that's sure. I think it could solve a lot of issues, and being sincere, being kind, being polite. Like, I think these are important virtues to have. Like, I think it's important for us to recognize that not everything is about us. Sometimes somebody's just having a bad day. Sometimes somebody's just going through something bigger than us, bigger than this conversation that is happening. And we feel like it's an attack on us. Sometimes it really has nothing to do with you at all. They could have just received bad news, etc., etc. And I think when you learn not to take things too personally, when you learn to just kind of distance yourself from, what's happening and stuff, I think it helps de-escalate things much quicker. And that way that person is able to, you're creating a safe space for that person to be vulnerable and honest with what's really going on with them, instead of your first instinct being to attack. But yeah, that's what I wanted to communicate today, is that I think that we all just need to do better in terms of how we react to certain things. I mean, we've seen people have road rage and how bad that can get and all of that kind of stuff because we're so reactive and stuff. Like, everyone's just angry. The world right now is so hard that it's so easy to be angry in this world. And I think that if we just keep finding ways to just kind of pour back into ourselves and just learn how to come back to neutral, learn how to come back to a state of inner peace and calm, we're able to communicate that and spread that with others, because now they will calm down. They will actually meet you at your energy rather than, you feeling like you need to now shout and raise your voice. Like, they will start to calm down because they're interacting with somebody who's calm. Yeah. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
in the 20s
here?
The 20s, baby.
What in the 20s is going here for my 20s, baby? This is the 20s.